The city was alive with noise, neon lights flickering against the dusk. Sarah, a young nurse, hurried through the crowded streets, her shift at the hospital finally over. Her footsteps echoed on the pavement, quick and uneven, as she clutched her bag tightly. The air felt heavy, like a storm was brewing. She didn't notice the man trailing her, his shadow blending into the twilight, watching her every move. Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket, but she ignored it, her focus on reaching the subway. The man's pace quickened, his boots scuffing softly behind her. She glanced over her shoulder, heart skipping as she caught a glimpse of his hooded figure. Was he following her? Her pulse raced, but she told herself it was just paranoia. The city was full of people. Still, she tightened her grip on her bag. The streetlights flickered, casting long shadows. Sarah turned down a quieter alley, a shortcut she'd taken dozens of times. The man followed, his steps deliberate now. Her instincts screamed danger, but she pushed the thought away. Just get to the station, she muttered under her breath. The alley was dim, the walls graffitied, the air thick with the smell of damp concrete and distant cigarette smoke. Suddenly, the man was closer to close. Sarah's breath hitched as she felt his presence, a cold prickle running down her spine. She quickened her pace, her sneakers slapping against the pavement. The man matched her speed, his shadow looming larger. Panic surged, her mind racing, with worst-case scenarios. Was he a mugger? Something worse. She cursed herself for taking the alley, her heart pounding. Before she could scream, he was beside her, his hand brushing her arm. Sarah froze, her body tensing for a fight. But instead of a threat, he leaned in, his voice a low whisper. "Keep walking," he said, urgent, almost desperate. His eyes, barely visible under the hood, weren't cruel, they were wide with fear. Sarah's confusion rooted her to the spot, but his grip tightened, urging her forward. "Don't look back," he whispered again, his voice trembling. Sarah's legs moved on instinct, though her mind screamed to run. Who was this man? Why was he helping her? Or was this a trap? The alley seemed to stretch endlessly, the subway's glow, still too far. His hand stayed on her arm, guiding but not forceful. Her fear mixed with curiosity, her heart a chaotic drumbeat in her chest. Then she heard it, footsteps, heavy and uneven, echoing from behind. Not his, someone else. Sarah's blood ran cold. The man's grip tightened, his eyes darting backward for a split second. "They're close," he muttered, barely audible. Who was they? Her mind spun with questions, but his urgency kept her moving. The alley's walls seemed to close in, the air thick with unspoken danger. The footsteps grew louder, faster, like a predator closing in. Sarah's breath came in shallow gasps, her body trembling. The man's pace quickened, pulling her along. "Don't stop," he hissed, his voice laced with panic. She stole a glance at him, his jaw was clenched, sweat beading on his brow. Whoever was behind them, he was as scared as she was. This wasn't about her, it was about him. The alley opened into a wider street, but the footsteps didn't stop. Sarah's legs burned, her lungs aching. The man's hand dropped from her arm, but he stayed close, his eyes scanning the shadows. "Almost there," he said, more to himself than to her. The subway entrance glowed ahead, a beacon of safety, but the sound of pursuit was relentless, a low growl mixing with the footsteps. Sarah's mind raced. Should she break away, run for the station? But something in the man's voice, his fear, his urgency, kept her tethered to him. He wasn't attacking her. He was running from something. Or someone. "Who are they?" she whispered, her voice shaking. He didn't answer, his focus locked on the path ahead. The subway was so close now, its lights promising escape. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows ahead, blocking their path. Tall, broad, dressed in dark clothes, he stood like a wall. Sarah's heart sank. The man beside her cursed under his breath, his hand twitching toward his pocket. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice low but firm. The footsteps behind them stopped, replaced by a chilling silence. They were trapped, caught between two threats. The figure ahead didn't move, his face hidden in the shadows. Sarah's chest tightened, her breath shallow. The man beside her stepped forward, shielding her. "Let her go," he said, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. The figure ahead tilted his head, as if amused. Then, from behind, a second voice, cold, menacing, spoke. "You can't run forever, Jake." Jake, that was his name. Sarah's mind reeled. Jake wasn't after her, he was the prey, but why involve her? The figure ahead stepped closer, his boots heavy on the pavement. Jake's hand hovered near his pocket, his body tense. "She's got nothing to do with this," he said, his voice cracking. The man behind laughed, a sound that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "Wrong place, wrong time," he said, his tone dripping with malice. Sarah's legs trembled, but she forced herself to stay calm. The subway was just steps away, but the two men blocked their path. Jake's eyes met hers, a silent apology in them. "Run when I say," he whispered, so low she barely heard. Her heart pounded, her palms sweaty. The man ahead pulled something from his jacket, a glint of metal in the dim light. A knife. A gun. Sarah's stomach lurched before she could process it. Jake moved. He shoved Sarah toward the subway entrance, shouting, "Run." His body slammed into the figure ahead, a blur of motion. Sarah stumbled, her legs carrying her toward the light. Behind her, grunts and the sound of a struggle filled the air. She didn't look back, her focus on the escalator descending into the station. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her body fueled by adrenaline. The subway platform was crowded, the hum of voices and trains a stark contrast to the chaos above. Sarah pushed through the throng, her heart still racing. She glanced back, expecting to see Jake or worse, his pursuers. But no one followed. Her hands shook as she fumbled for her phone, dialing 911. "There's a fight," she stammered to the operator, her voice barely steady. In the alley by 5th Street, the operator's calm voice asked for details. But Sarah's mind was a blur. Who was Jake? Why were those men after him? And why had he protected her? She sank onto a bench, her legs weak. The platform buzzed around her, oblivious to the danger she'd just escaped. Her phone buzzed a text from her brother, asking where she was. She ignored it, her thoughts on Jake's desperate eyes. Minutes later, sirens wailed above. Sarah's heart leapt. Help was coming. But for Jake, it might be too late. She stood, torn between staying safe and going back to check. The crowd parted. As two officers descended the escalator, their radios crackling. Sarah flagged them down, her words tumbling out as she described the alley. "Jake, the men." The officers nodded, their faces grim, and headed back up. Sarah waited, her nerves frayed. The platform felt claustrophobic now, the air too warm. She replayed the night in her mind, Jake's whisper, his fear, the men hunting him. Was he a criminal, a victim? Her gut told her he wasn't the bad guy, but she couldn't be sure. Her phone buzzed again, her brother's name flashing. She answered this time, her voice shaky as she told him she was safe. Hours later, at the police station, Sarah sat wrapped in a blanket, a styrofoam cup of coffee in her hands. The officers had found no one in the alley, no Jake, no pursuers, no signs of a struggle. Sarah's story was all they had. "We'll look into it," the detective said, but his tone suggested doubt. Sarah's frustration grew. She knew what she'd seen, what she'd felt. Jake was real, and he was in danger. Days passed, but the incident haunted Sarah. She scoured news reports, hoping for answers. Nothing. No mention of Jake or the men in the alley. Her coworkers noticed her distraction, urging her to let it go, but she couldn't. Jake's eyes, his whispered warning, stayed with her. She began searching online, digging into local crime forums, looking for any clue about a man named Jake. One night, scrolling through an X thread, she found a post about a missing man named Jake Harper, a whistleblower who'd exposed a criminal syndicate. The post included a grainy photo. It was him. Sarah's heart raced as she read on. Jake had been on the run, hunted by the syndicate's enforcers. The thread speculated he'd been spotted in the city, but no one knew if he was alive. Sarah's mind spun. Jake wasn't a random stranger, he was a target, and she'd been caught in the crossfire. Guilt gnawed at her. Had he sacrificed himself to save her? She contacted the ex-user, who posted the thread, sharing her story anonymously. They replied with a tip. Jake might be hiding in a safe house downtown. Sarah knew it was risky, but she had to find him, to know he was okay. Under the cover of night, Sarah went to the address from the ex-user, a rundown building in a forgotten part of the city. Her heart pounded as she knocked, half expecting no answer. The door creaked open, and there he was, Jake, bruised but alive. His eyes widened in recognition. "You shouldn't be here," he said, but his voice held relief. Sarah stepped inside, determined to hear his story. Jake explained everything. The syndicate, the secrets he'd uncovered, the price on his head. He'd seen Sarah in the alley, and thought she was in danger too. "I couldn't let them hurt you," he said, his voice heavy. Sarah listened, her fear replaced by admiration. Jake wasn't a hero in the traditional sense, but he'd risked Everything for a stranger. She vowed to help him, no matter the cost. Together, they contacted a journalist Sarah knew from the hospital, someone with a reputation for exposing corruption. Jake shared his evidence documents. Rico